I just thought I would do a video real quick while my casserole is in the oven. And and while my husband is not on this level and I can actually talk in peace, I wanted to pick up where I left off, where I was telling you guys how I met him at a party, and it was just random. I just looked back, saw beautiful green eyes, asked him if he wanted to dance. We danced, and it's funny, I had been there 3 years, and had I been there 3 years? No, it couldn't have been 3 years. It must have been maybe 2 years. And then I was like saying, you can't go here. And he said, you can't go here. And so we were just having the best time, just dancing and laughing and joking and everything. And so after the dance was over, just like I did with all the other guys that I asked to dance, I said, oh, okay, well, thanks a lot. See you later. And I went away, because how did I know that he wasn't there with some other woman or whatever? He was a really cute guy and he had green eyes, and so I just figured he has to be with somebody. So it was just a dance, it was nothing. But because I thought he was very cute, and he could match the items that I had on my list, so what I did, I kept dancing with other people, letting them see me have a good time. And I'm drinking apple cider vinegar, in case you're wondering. And I can tell you about that too if you want, in a different video. But anyway, so I let him see me, and then I kept passing by, acting like I didn't see him, and letting him see my legs that were out based on my mom's suggestion, not knowing if he was a leg man or not. And speaking of that, we were talking about, like, Kevin Samuels, how he was talking about black women, black men, and I thought that I probably wouldn't marry a black man, because I didn't think I was light enough based on what was going on in the 80s, and also I didn't think I had enough butt for the average black man, and I probably don't for the average black man. But I was like, I don't care. And I actually even dated some white guys before I met my husband, because they thought I was beautiful. The first people that told me that I was beautiful in my life and at college, or in college, were white guys who said, hey, you're beautiful. And I was like, what? Would you like to go out to dinner? And so it was a shock. And I don't know if it was a novelty or whatever, but there were a number of white guys, the one in particular, that wanted to date me. But by the time he did, I was like, I love Bernard, and I really don't want to get involved with anybody else. So that was kind of interesting in the 80s. I didn't expect that, but got a lot of positive attention from white men. And so I just said, this might be it. And my mom, back to Callan, don't you bring any white man home. And I can, get with her on that, because she grew up during the time where white people weren't very nice to us. And I can see why she didn't want me to marry anyone white. And, but given the voice that I have and some of my proclivities, she probably assumed that it might be a person. But I told her, I said, I'm marrying whoever treats me the best. That's all I can promise you. And so that's the mindset that I had. I wanted someone who was going to be good to me and someone who was attractive to me. It didn't matter if they were white, brown, yellow, whatever. I was just looking for someone to be good to me. Someone to be like Charles Ingalls was to Caroline on Little House on the Prairie. Someone who was going to be like James was to Florida on Good Times, or like John was to Caroline, not Caroline, but to Olivia on the Waltons. That's the kind of stuff I was watching, and that's what I was looking for. And so like I said, I went to that party though because I love to dance, and back then I loved rap, like Heavy D and Run DMC and all of those people, where it was just happy music. It was stuff you danced to, not a lot of this stuff with the B word and the nasty like WAP and all that stuff. That's not for me. I'm too old for all of that. I don't want to hear that. But anyway, so I let him see the legs, not knowing if he was a leg man or not. And then I also kept watching him to make sure he wasn't with anyone. And so after probably about maybe an hour, 2 hours. I said I need to call his bluff and see if he has any interest in me, or if he wants to go any further with this. And so I passed by him a number of times, let him see the legs, and then finally I pretended like I was leaving, and I walked past him where he was like a few rows of people back. He was by himself, looked kind of out of place, and so then I get to the door, and as I'm walking, I notice he walks to the door, and he says, "You're not leaving yet, are you?" And I was like, "No, I'm just going to go get something to drink." And then so he says, "Okay, well, can I go with you?" And then I proceed to talk his head off for probably about 2 hours, telling him about this guy that I had just broken up with, how a guy with a jerry curl actually dogged me out. And I was just talking. As you can see, I can talk. I was just talking and talking and talking. And then he was listening and listening and listening. And then finally, the evening was almost over. And so then he asked me what I was doing the next day. And so I told him I was going to the library at 8 o'clock. And so he said, "Well, how about I meet you there?" And I was like, a guy that's going to meet me at the library? Oh my goodness. What I didn't realize was he was a second-year senior athlete who was excited by the idea that I wanted to be a journalism major, even though I was in double E, and I wrote well. And so I didn't realize that he saw somebody, who could help him with his papers and get his butt out of there. And so he agreed to meet me at the library, but he did think your girl was cute. So that's how I wound up meeting him, and then we wound up hanging out and became best friends, and a few roundabout ways we wound up dating. And right before he was getting ready to leave to come back home, and I had another year left, and then we wound up getting together. And it's funny, he tried to break up with me, talking about he was having a lot of fun when we weren't so serious, and maybe he could go home and see how we feel, and I could go back to Augusta and see how we feel. And I'm like, for what? It doesn't even make any sense. So I didn't fall for that. I was very intentional, and I let him know that I wanted to be serious. And so fortunately he liked me enough. Like, you can't just let a guy just string you on. And I hear people talk about being engaged for like 5 years, 10 years. For what? It's a time waste, especially if you really want to be married. I think you need at least a year before you get to know people. We got married after knowing each other for 5 years, because we were in college, and we got engaged after 4, and we were married by 5. And with college, you really understand. But even while you're in college, you have to be looking. For you young ladies that are out there, a lot of times Black women, because we want to be so accomplished, even through our masters, we're not looking. We think we can find somebody later, but a lot of the other ethnicities, they're looking for their husbands while they're in school. In fact, when I had my knee surgery 3 months ago, my physical therapist, she's only 30, but she's already been married for at least a year. I could surmise just by talking to her. And I thought about that. She's a doctor, but she's already married. And a lot of Black women would wait to become an established doctor first, accomplish some things, buy your house, and then start dating seriously. And that kind of leads to us saying things like, I already have 2 houses, I have a car, I'm a strong Black woman. And the only thing that I wanted to say while my husband wasn't here, and to wrap up, is that a lot of times Black men, they're not trying to hear that. They're not impressed by that. The only man that's really impressed by you just calling the roll of all the things that you did without a man, those are usually men that are maybe going to try to use you or something. And so what I've found, and I would love to do like a town hall where we have Black women and we have Black men, and everybody brings their listening ears, and they're willing to talk to each other and find a middle ground answer or solution to move forward together, would be that a lot of things that we think that Black men or men in general are looking for, a lot of them are not. So that's the reason I wanted to kind of share my story and my experience to balance out what Kevin Samuels has said over the years, and give an answer from a woman in college like I was. Oh, and some black women have clowned me before and said, oh, you are one of those, who was looking for a husband in college. Yeah, I was one of those, because I didn't want to be, like 30 and people in Augusta saying, Callan, why aren't you married like your cousin, is, or like this person or that person. I was like, I want to be intentional, and I knew I wanted children before I was 30. And so I wanted my BS, but I wanted my MRS degree, and those are not mutually exclusive. That's the main thing I want to tell women. So my message is for women before, 30 and after 30 too. So I'm going to close with this, but I wanted to bring that one little thing back to the table, how I met my husband, how I kind of had to step out of the box, and how I behaved in order to let him know that I was serious and to move on. Maybe next time I'll tell you about how I actually got my proposal and an engagement ring shortly after I moved to the DC area where he was from. So I'll save that for next time. But anyway, hopefully that helps somebody out there. But if you have questions, be sure to let me know, and I will do a follow-up video. But until the next time, have a good one.